Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Fantasy Tavern Brawl by Amuri Studios.
Fantasy Tavern Brawl is a game that is going to be running on crowdfunding, so make sure to check out the link down below in the description of this video after you watch it. Now with this game, this is a hand management dexterity game in which you are going to be in a tavern and you are going to be trying to make sure that your meeples stay in the tavern at the end of the game for the most points, and you want them to be on higher levels of the tavern to get the maximum value of points. Now with this game, you are going to be playing cards that do different things, that you will be tossing cards or dropping cards, and ultimately what you're trying to do is create as much chaos for the other players, knocking their meeples out of the tavern, and make sure that your meeples are staying in the tavern on top of extra cards or extra layers, floors of the tavern. Let's go down to the table where I'll show you how this one works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer.
All right, I have Fantasy Tavern Brawl on the table. Let me show you all about this dexterity hand management game about having a brawl in a fantasy world at a tavern. Fantasy Tavern Brawl, of course. Now, I do want to make sure you understand that what you see here is prototype, so the final artwork components, maybe even some of the rules, might change once it's released from crowdfunding. That being said, what you have with this game, you're going to have lots of different colored meeples. Each player is going to have their own set of colored meeples, and as you can see, there's a lot of them there. Then you're going to have a starting tavern card that's just going to be set out in the middle of the playing area, as you can see here. We do have a scenario card that's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different scenarios on it, and it'll show you how to set up the game. Now, each of these different colored banners represents one of the different races in the game, and there are lots of cards for each of those races. You have dwarfs, you have elves, you have goblins, you have orcs, minotaurs, and demons. Now, as you can see, each of these cards are going to do different things, and that is on the player aid, helping you to understand what each of those icons mean. So that's very handy, makes the game move along fast and easy. Now, I've got here the hand setup for what you would be playing if you were to do the first scenario. So you've got 2 dwarfs, 2 halflings, and 2 orcs. And so this is what we're going to be using for demonstrating how the game works. Now, players are going to have the same number of cards. Everybody's going to have the same cards in their hand, and on your turn, you're going to pick one of the cards to play as your action. So for instance, let's say that I do dwarfs here. Now, how this is going to work, you're going to do whatever's on the icons on the card. Now, the icons on the card are going to range anywhere from putting meeples out here in the tavern. That's what this icon means. It says put 4 meeples, dropping them onto the tavern, and placing this card, this dwarf card, on top of those 4 meeples. So in other words, we're going to go ahead and do that, and we got them all on the card. Now, if any fall off of the card out of sight of the tavern, then they go back to that player. And now I place this card on top of that, and like so. Now, because this card is elevated and it's on top of some other meeples, this becomes the second floor of the tavern. And the reason why that's important is because at the end of the game, if you have meeples on top of the second floor, they're going to give you more points than the meeples you have on the first floor. And if there were a third floor, those meeples would give you more points if they're on the third floor. So on and so forth. So you want to try to make higher levels of the tavern, and you want your meeples to be in those levels, giving you more points. Now that I've played this card, it's going to be the next player's turn to play a card from their hand, and again, they have the same exact cards. So let's show you what the halfling card might do. So the halfling card is going to have you place the card somewhere in the tavern. So maybe I place it there, and I've extended out the first floor, and now we can start putting stuff out here on this tavern, or on this floor. But had there been a card already here, and let's say that there were some meeples, and we'll put some other colors out here, and now we've got a second floor that we can extend out. And so now we've extended out the second floor, and so re-looking at the second icon here, this icon is going to have me stack 4 meeples and then flick them towards the tower. So I'm going to stack 4 meeples, and you can kind of picture how different ways this can work. I'm going to stack them the easiest way here where they're flat like that so that I can demonstrate. Now, I would not be this close to the tower. You're going to back up some when you're doing this, but as you flick, you want your meeples to obviously go into the tower, but you also want to try to knock some of the other opponent's meeples out. So had there been some more green or purple or red in this, I would be trying to flick them out of the tower, and anything that gets knocked out, again, is returned back to that player. Anything of yours that doesn't make it into the tower gets returned back. You get the idea. It's just it's pure chaos that you're trying to enact here, trying to get your meeples in the best spot, knock the other player's meeples out. Another example here are the orcs. And so with the orcs, you are going to be flinging your card into the scenario here. So you'll be flicking your card towards it, and obviously that causes some chaos. And if your card stays in the tavern, that's what this icon means. If you made contact and you're in the tavern, then you get to do these actions over here. If your card did not, and it went flying over it and went off to the side, then the card is out. It doesn't stay in the game. But if it made contact with the tavern, then you're going to get to put 2 meeples on that card. So let's say this is the purple player here. They're going to put 2 of their meeples on the card, and you need to try to place them standing upright, initially anyhow. And then the last icon down here says that you get to take out 2 meeples of another player's card, so long as you can see it from bird's eye view. So this one right here, blue, would be gone, and let's say that maybe green had one over here. Green's is gone now. So you get to take some people's meeples out if you play your cards right. Now that's just an example of what the 3 cards do in the first scenario. I can't show you everything about all the other scenarios, but suffice it to say that they're very similar. You're going to be dropping cards from a height up above. You'll be flicking cards, as you already saw me. You'll be flinging cards like so. And then your meeples too, as you saw, you'll be stacking them and flicking them. You might be flicking them one by one. You might be dropping them. All sorts of craziness happening in this game, but it's a lot of fun, a lot of different scenarios to play out. At the end of this, all that's really going to happen is you're going to score up your meeples as they are in the tavern. Ones that are on the first floor obviously are going to give you 1 point. If they're on the second floor, 2 points, third floor, 3 points, so on and so forth. Whoever has the most points at the end is going to be the winner. And that is how you play Fantasy Tavern Brawl. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one.
And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Fantasy Tavern Brawl from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, I want to point out the back of the box says, what would a tavern be without a good old brawl? And even as this is kind of an abstract-y kind of thing where you're tossing cards that represents the brawl, it's still a pretty thematic experience because you've got these cards that represent different things in a fantasy realm kind of world. You've got these different characters, dwarves and whatnot, fantasy, all themed fantasy, if I can talk. And you've got the little meeples that are just being knocked around everywhere. It's an interesting idea for a game. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it definitely has some dexterity in it. So some people may not like that. You know, some people just may be genuinely better at something like that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a fun game. It's fun to be able to kind of play with your board game.
And that's exactly what this is. It's a play kind of experience, right? And it is a game. It's not a toy, right? Because you do still want to be...
Which is what we tell our children all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because you'll lose the pieces. But there is some strategy involved in this game, right? Because you do have a hand of cards, and you want to be mindful of when you're playing them because each card does something different, and you only have so many of each type. Yeah. So you got to be smart about what you're doing, and you're waiting to see what other players are doing with their cards. And so there's some strategy behind that, I feel like, because if you play your cards right and you can get your people on top of those cards that are higher up in the tavern, that's giving you more points.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting choices to make in this. Talk about the dexterity factor, right? Because you're tossing cards or you're dropping stuff. You're maybe, tossing stuff out there. What was that like for you?
That's not always my favorite way to play games because hand-eye coordination is 0 and I'm just not very good at it. But we've played other games. What's the game that the kids love where you're
Oh, Rhino Hero.
Yeah, that's been a game that we've been playing for years, and it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
So it's something that we've seen before, we're used to, and it is fun.
Yeah. I think this
I'm
one.
not great at it, but it's fun.
I think this one just provides a lot of interesting ways that dexterity can be worked into games, right? Because you're flicking, you're tossing, again, you're dropping, you're doing all sorts of stuff. It's not just a stacking kind of game where you got to steady your hand or anything like that. It is a little more depth perception-y of trying to toss or flick something the right way, but you got to know that about this kind of game, and that's what you get with this one. So I had a really good time with this one, though. I thought it was, again, very thematic, like the artwork, like the way the game sort of just plays out. It's good, chaotic fun with this one. So one you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
Yeah, I think this is a great one.
I would too, yeah. The game is Fantasy Tavern Brawl. Again, it's from Amuri Studio, and it is running on crowdfunding, so make sure to check the link down below in the description of this video. And while you're down there, make sure to leave us some comments.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.